Later, man.
Analyzing the president's China trip. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Over the last 36 hours, the president and his administration have been engaged in some of the most critical diplomacy that this country has with China. China is the second most powerful country in the world. We are the first. China needs us, especially right now, but also seeks to take our spot. The Chinese are ruthlessly competitive with the United States. They undermine our foreign policy. They blatantly steal our ideas and intellectual property. They even poison us, allowing precursors for fentanyl to be sent to Mexico, which makes drugs that kill, in some years, over 100,000 American citizens. And despite all of that, Trump has created a very friendly relationship with Xi Jinping, the leader of China, who is set to be the leader of China for the rest of his life. Here's just some of how it sounded over the last 36 hours in Beijing.
Whenever we had a problem, we worked that out very quickly, and we're going to have a fantastic future together. Such respect for China, the job you've done. You're a great leader. I say it to everybody. You're a great leader. Sometimes people don't like me saying it, but I say it anyway because it's true. I only say the truth.
There you go. There's the president. It was very warm. The president admires strength and power, and I think that's what he sees in Xi Jinping. Again, president for life of China. There's an admiration to that. On the flip side, Xi Jinping knows how to put Trump in a good mood. A red carpet welcome, quite a spectacle it was when they first met, a warm reception for the American president. They know what each other likes to hear. China's president ruling a country with an economy that is in decline right now, though, telling Trump that the rivalry between our two countries must ease and that the United States and China should be partners.
China and the United States both stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. We should be partners, not rivals. We should help each other succeed and prosper together and find the right way for major countries to get along well with each other in the new era.
Okay, so it all sounds very lovely, right? The question is how reasonable, how possible is any of this? The White House announcing some serious progress on paper as they're about to wrap up this trip tomorrow. It appears some kind of investment possibility for China into the United States is set to be traded for a number of things. China reducing the flow of these fentanyl precursors that kill Americans, access to China from some of America's biggest companies, the reason that he brought Elon and the head of Apple and all these major corporations with him. China buying more American farm products and American oil to relieve China's dependence on oil from the Persian Gulf. So there's a lot of stuff here. The Treasury Secretary indicating in an interview today what China will get out of this deal. Investment into what he calls non-sensitive areas of the United States, possibly alluding to that $1 trillion deal that was reported earlier this week that had everybody jumping. Take a listen to this.
We're going to talk about forming a board of trade for the bilateral trade between the U.S. and China, and we're going to talk about a board of investment that will be responsible for investment in non-sensitive areas.
Non-sensitive areas. So China's economy, as I said, is struggling, and a deal like this could be the lifeline that Xi Jinping needs. So to talk about all of this, we're going to analyze it the best we can with Gordon Chang, who is an expert on China, author of Plan Red, China's project to destroy the United States, and one of the most outspoken critics of the Chinese Communist Party. We also have Jack Posobiec, who's a former Navy intel officer who is fluent in Mandarin, so he knows quite a bit about this government and this country as well. Good to have you both here. Gordon, I want to start with you. You're one of the loudest voices of opposition against the Chinese Communist Party. What do you make of this pleasant trip and all of these promises and the reports of what China is willing to do for the United States and the potential of access for them here in our country?
Well, I think the most important thing, and for not only Xi Jinping, but for President Trump, is to extend the trade truce. And it sounds like that they very much have done that. The thing that concerns me is some of Xi Jinping's language today. When Xi Jinping talks of a new era, which we just heard, he's talking about the era where China is dominant and the United States is a declining power and on the way out. And he's made that very explicit in comments over the last couple of years. But also today, he made a reference to ancient Greece. And that reference was that China was the rising power and that the United States, the ruling hegemon, was declining. And that was a direct slap at President Trump and the United States. And I hope that President Trump, and I'm sure he is going to get back at Xi Jinping for making that comment, because that's incredibly disrespectful, especially in this type of event.
Well, let me just a quick response. I believe he put a Truth Social out kind of acknowledging that comment and stating that Xi Jinping was really commenting on the declining United States of Joe Biden in the last 4 years prior to him coming into office. So that might be his response. I think he's trying to keep this a good relationship because I think we want things out of China in this moment. But Jack, let's let you start there and get your reaction to all this.
No, I had the exact same response as Gordon. I thought it was striking. I thought it was meant as a sort of shaded insult to the United States writ large, regardless of which American president was in the room. To say something like that in front of an American president was certainly striking. And it's language that we don't typically see from the leader of the Chinese Communist Party during the technocratic rule of Hu Jintao or Jiang Zemin prior to Xi Jinping. Typically, their statements would be much more couched, much more measured. This was not that. And also some of the language on Taiwan, warning of a conflict, warning of the Thucydides trap. This is some of the most aggressive language that we've heard from a Chinese leader directly to an American leader on Taiwan.
Go into that more, Gordon. I mean, do you think there's, it seems like, you know, Jack thinks that there's a threat almost being made against against Trump, but it's hard to imagine that he's in a position to make such a threat. China's not in a really good position right now, right?
Yeah, China's not in a very good position, but Jack is absolutely right because Xi Jinping's words on Taiwan were extremely clear. China, for various reasons, is in no position to invade the main island of Taiwan. And part of it is Xi Jinping has decimated his military with these intensifying purges. And you don't have senior officers at the top of the People's Liberation Army right now. But Xi Jinping is incredibly arrogant. And although a lot of these things are obvious to everybody else, I'm not so sure that Xi Jinping sees this because he's in the mold of Mao Zedong, incredibly ideological, was blinded by so much what was going on around him. And we got to worry about his state of mind. So Jack is absolutely right. When you hear a threat like that from Xi Jinping, we have to take it extremely seriously. And it's very good that Marco Rubio pushed back and said, look, American policy on Taiwan is unchanged. Those are great words.
Yeah, and there was an interview with Rubio just came out tonight. Jack, is it foolish for this administration to think that China is going to live up to a lot of these promises they're making? Is it foolish for us to potentially let them move in with investment into the United States?
Well, I think we should always be very cautious about letting China into U.S. markets, particularly when it comes to these AI chips, NVIDIA, when it comes to these semiconductors. We need to be very cautious because we know what they do. We know they like to copy our technology, particularly anything that is dual purpose for military, and then export it back and create their own version of it. I'm sure that Elon Musk has had issues with that with Tesla, SpaceX, and the like. But what we also need to make sure of is that China should also be worried about reneging on deals that they made with President Trump, because he does still wield the power of tariffs. And he's talked about potentially finding other ways that he could use those tariffs to slap them back on even after the Supreme Court struck down the first round.
Yeah. Gordon, real quick, you know, after watching what we saw today and the pleasantries, how well they get along, if you could have the president's ear for 30 seconds, what would your advice be?
Don't allow Chinese investment into the U.S. These are additional bases of subversion. Trust but verify. It's going to be really important. As Jack said, the Chinese don't adhere to their promises. And they didn't adhere to the Phase 1 trade deal of January 2020. So we have a record here in a Trump administration.
Well said. Gordon Chang, Jack Posobiec, good to see you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I want to talk about the impact of this China summit potentially on Iran. Former Brigadier General Blaine Holt has been our Iran guy, and it's good to have you back on. The White House saying very defiantly that they're not asking for China's help. with Iran, even though China is like the one country that could really make this easy for us. So I have a hard time believing that. Where do you think we are, and what do you think this summit could achieve?
I think what the summit achieved is the last of the umbilical cord between Beijing and Tehran has now been severed. I think the president probably laid out, this is where we're going. You have vital interests here. You want oil turned back on. That's fine. You're going to pay retail for it, but we're going to see a free Iran government emerge. And we're going to take this regime out anyway, and there's not a darn thing you're going to be able to do about it. So play ball, and we'll all play ball together. And that's where this effusiveness comes from President Trump towards Xi Jinping. He's not naive to that. But in doing so, he's also mixing it up inside of CCP politics, because there's factionalism all over Xi Jinping right now. And so President Trump giving him an attaboy actually bolsters him. All of the other stuff, a lot of theater going on.
You think Xi Jinping is ready to buy American oil out of Alaska, I guess is what they were talking about, potentially to not take oil out of Iran or out of the Persian Gulf in the meantime?
Actually, looking at the Chinese economy, I don't think they have much of a choice. But the other thing we have to watch is, while we tout ourselves as a net exporter, we're awfully skosh on both refining and oil stocks. The SBR is awfully low. And so I get it. We're selling. It's part of our geopolitical strategy, but we can't keep that up indefinitely. We've got to open the straits.
What do you think happens now? We were expecting something. You and I had talked earlier this week that maybe the president was waiting for this summit, not making a move on Iran. It's been a little quiet, waiting for this. Now the summit's basically over tomorrow. Where do you think we go?
Yeah, so I think it's really a smart move. The Chinese, for the most part, have stayed on the sidelines while we have mopped up from Venezuela all the way to Indonesia and the Malaccan Straits with these new defense agreements. That means we've got our boot on 80% of their oil if we want to. And so what he's doing now is closing the deal and saying, here's how this is going to all lay out and finish. And I think what we're going to see in the coming weeks is Iran is orphaned. Here come the new Iranians. We're going to have to get those oil fields healthy, and then we'll all get back to business.
Okay. We'll see what to make of that prediction from Blaine Holt. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
All right. You just heard, by the way, from Gordon Chang a couple minutes ago, author of the bestseller Plan Red, which details China's plan to become the next global superpower and surpass the United States. You can get the important book on Amazon, bookstores anywhere, or check out the free offer right there on the screen. Gordon Chang, Plan Red. Okay, coming up here after the break, J.D. Vance's fraud task force gets to work on the state of Maine. The man who is tasked with prosecuting fraud at the DOJ, working right beneath the vice president, joins us coming up next. Plus, later in news from the left, the director of The Big Short with a surprising slam on the Democrat Party and white liberals.
No group is worse than white liberals.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
We've been building chainsaws for over 100 years. Now that century of cutting comes in a mower. New blade, same bloodline. Right now, save $50 on select mowers. Steel.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
When I see that autism services fraud in the Medicaid program in the Somali community, but not just that, I see local and state politicians who don't care about policing that fraud. That's the tip of the iceberg. And we're going to find out just how deep that iceberg is. And I suspect, I can't promise, but I suspect we are going to find hundreds of millions of more dollars every single month that we look in the state of Maine, because this is not a state that takes it seriously.
All right, the vice president right there, J.D. Vance in Bangor, Maine earlier today. It's the next stop on his anti-fraud tour, and this task force, which is just music to the ears of Americans that are sick and tired of watching the government waste all their money. Another state run by Democrats that have been very happy to look the other way on a lot of fraud. It is surreal to see how this country is run. Vance going after the governor there, Democrat Janet Mills. Take a listen.
She has actually fought back against our efforts to identify fraud in the Medicaid and Medicare programs, which, by the way, not only does it steal from you, but it means that those programs are going to go bankrupt because all the money's going to the fraudsters.
Something else, isn't it? Colin McDonald is the Assistant Attorney General for Fraud at the Department of Justice. Nice enough to join us. And I know you're a busy guy, Colin. Thanks for coming on. Let's start with the state of Maine. What are you guys finding in this state?
Well, thank you for having me, Rob. Maine is just like many and potentially even all of the states across our country. We are seeing fraud in our government, in our taxpayer-funded programs. The money directly from the taxpayers being funneled into the pockets of fraudsters. This is a huge red flag. We've reached a crisis mode in our country when it comes to the fraud that we're seeing. The president and the vice president are right to put their finger on this issue and to mobilize the entirety of the federal government to come up with solutions for how we ensure that taxpayers' money goes to the intended beneficiaries and not to fraudsters.
Well, you know, the thing about this that is so aggravating to me is that I truly believe that there's an acknowledgement that they've known that this was happening in a lot of these states, and I think there's been zero interest whatsoever in calling it out, because I think in a lot of cases, especially like we saw in Minneapolis, these are their constituents. These are people that vote for them, and if you start going after them for fraud, you might lose that vote, and it's easier to just let the endless supply of money that comes from the federal government be stolen than it is to do something politically unpopular. And in my opinion, that brings liability for this onto some of these politicians. I think Tim Walz should be personally investigated. I think he knew. I mean, is that something the DOJ is looking at?
Fraudsters always look for the softest target to steal other people's money. Taxpayer-funded programs have long been the softest target. Those who are within the chain of culpability are within the reach of the Department of Justice. We and our efforts that are underway are intent on finding everyone within the chain of culpability. No one outside of that chain of culpability, but certainly anyone within that chain of culpability.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, Colin, the man that's responsible for going after these guys in this new fraud task force under J.D. Vance, Colin McDonald at the DOJ. Thank you so much for joining us, and Godspeed to you. What an important job you have.
Thank you, Rob. Great to be with you.
All right, Spencer Pratt out in L.A. is clapping back at TMZ. Not sure if you saw this one. TMZ accusing Pratt of lying in his campaign about living in a trailer on his empty property where incompetent city leaders just let his house burn down, and thousands of houses, by the way. TMZ alleging that Pratt has actually been living at the Bel Air Hotel in Beverly Hills, trying to paint him as a rich elitist who's simply posing as a victim while trying to run for mayor. The accusation was irritating enough to Pratt, and I imagine it was, to demand an appearance on the show. TMZ acquiesced. This is how it looked.
The campaign ad certainly made it seem that you were living in that trailer. It was a high point of the commercial, but you're at the Hotel Bel Air.
That is where I live. That's where Karen Bass Mayor Bass, burn down my house. That is where I will live until I have a new house. I don't live at the Hotel Bel Air. I don't live in the Airstream. I don't live in the Santa Barbara. I don't have a house. They burned it down. I don't even sleep. I get 4 hours of sleep because I'm fighting these corrupt freaking politicians all day long.
You can imagine, right? Pratt also writing on X, hey guys, why don't they want to talk about why I need a hotel in the first place? Karen Bass let my home burn down. Also 6,000 of my neighbors. No big deal. That's something else. Katie Zacharia is an LA resident. Mercedes Schlapp also with us tonight. Ladies, good to have you both. Katie, the point of TMZ is to paint Spencer Pratt as just a guy who maybe lost his house, but doesn't matter because he's rich anyway. He can afford the Bel Air Hotel. We shouldn't feel sorry for him. We shouldn't vote for him. I thought they looked like king-size a-holes in that interview, the way they treated him. What are your thoughts?
Well, I heard Spencer Pratt at a fundraiser yesterday address this exact issue, and here's the thing. What TMZ didn't talk about is how Karen Bass gave criminal illegal aliens cash cards to stay home and evade ICE, and yet does nothing for the residents of Los Angeles. Can you imagine living in a trailer with your family every day and not wanting kind of a respite, maybe having to stay at a hotel for a number of days for hot water while you rehab your trailer? Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. TMZ should be coming out on the side of Spencer Pratt, not Karen Bass, who burned their neighborhood down.
Yeah, I mean, TMZ is like an LA-based company, Mercedes. I mean, you'd think they'd like to see the city a little nicer. I mean, why not support him? Why go after him in such a ridiculous manner? And he said he's been there, what, 5 or 6 days in the last month? So maybe he's got 5 or 6 nights of good, decent sleep, not in a trailer.
I mean, TMZ can't be taken seriously. It's like a gossip media outlet. Yeah. I mean, seriously, no one really cares what TMZ.
But this dinged him, though. I mean, there's a lot of...
It has to deal with the Kardashians. Then it kind of gets interesting. But, like, the reality is that for Spencer Pratt, I think he's been so effective in his messaging. And I think it's resonating with a lot of Los Angeles voters. The problem is, as we all know, you're talking about the registered Republicans in LA, it's only 15%. So he would have to drive a lot of these independent voters to come out and vote. And we know one thing, that the Democrats, they're very well organized in their grassroots efforts in that city. And it's hard for a Republican to win. We haven't seen a Republican mayor win since 2001. Yeah. And it's just atrocious to watch that these individuals in LA County, these Democrats, continue to elect the most incompetent politicians I have ever seen in my life. And I think it's such a disservice to the beautiful city of Los Angeles, where we've seen the fact that homelessness is on the rise, on the rise, and they can't even pay their bills.
What they've done is, I mean, the Democrats have behaved just like any dictatorship you see. They've spent most of their time trying to consolidate their power in that state so that they can never lose again. If anybody thinks that there's a democracy happening in California or in Los Angeles, which is their favorite word, right? You'd be a fool to believe that. They've made it almost impossible for themselves to lose power, no matter how badly they torture the people that live there, no matter how badly they destroy one of the most beautiful places in the world. And Katie, Karen Bass, attempting to kind of clean up her image and pretend like she's I'm going to make things better. Just vote for me. You know, I've been working hard to change all these things. And then at the same time, she's now indicating that she wants to pay for new teeth for the thousands of drug addicts that are running around her city, which, by the way, is a terribly expensive thing to do. The drugs rot their teeth. She wants to buy them new ones so they can get back on their feet and get out there. And you know, it's just, you see right there, she's not going to change a thing. The city is going to be a dump for as long as that woman is in power.
Well, and she's failing to address two things. What about the dental care for tax-paying citizens who aren't drug addicts, who need actual dental care and need kid dental care, pediatric dental care? And number two, what about the underlying drug epidemic that has plagued our city and absolutely destroyed it, which has actually created homelessness and crime and a whole host of problems? What about underlying issues that create the loss of teeth, like meth? Like, why don't we deal with that rather than give them new teeth? Let's correct the problem. But she's not interested in solutions. She wants to continue to keep these people dependent so they can keep the system alive and stay in power, just like you said, Rob. That's exactly right. It's something else. Got to leave it there. Mercy, Katie, good to see you, ladies. Thanks so much.
you.
Media goes ballistic over a Trump comment as Democrats attempt to shift all the blame from the trillions that they lit on fire, from their inflation crisis. They're going to dump it all on Trump. Coming up next with Rick and Ed.
He literally is saying, I'm not worried about you. I don't even think about you. I'm worried about an endless war.
What did our presidents know about UFOs? Presidential interest in these objects dates back to George Washington and included JFK, Carter, Clinton, Reagan, and more. Find out the truth. Watch Presidents and UFOs, the surprising story.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis? With fewer symptoms from moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, where would you go? Imagine being a million miles away. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. And for adults with active psoriatic arthritis, Tremfya goes beyond the skin. Less joint pain, stiffness, and swelling is possible. And Tremfya even reduced fatigue. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Ask your doctor about Tremfya.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
This Memorial Day, we honor the brave who stood watch over our nation's security. At PCmatic, we're proud to continue that legacy by protecting your digital world. From American homes and local businesses to our nation's government agencies, we provide the only cybersecurity that's 100% researched, developed, and supported right here in the USA. PCmatic, American made, American strong. Visit PCmatic.com today.
It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well.
This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
This is the nightmare of the American firsters who said, oh, we don't want to get involved in worry about us here at home. He literally is saying, I'm not worried about you. I don't even think about you. I'm worried about an endless war.
Including among independents and within his own party, people who are blaming him for making their lives more expensive.
Means that any wage gain you get is eaten up, and then even more by rising prices, which means Americans are poorer.
This is as good as it gets. The media losing its mind over Trump's response to a reporter right before he left for China asking what all he considers when he's negotiating with Iran, trying to end a nuclear program of this Islamic regime. They've twisted an answer that he gave to make it seem as if the president is just a billionaire elitist that doesn't care about the American people and what they're going through. We want to show you the full question and answer just so we can analyze it after. Take a listen.
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation.
Kind of a clever way to ask it, right? How susceptible are you to the pressure of the American people when you're trying to maybe negotiate a deal that would work out more in Iran's favor, is kind of how she asked it there. The president kind of got caught there for a second and gave them this ammo that they're now using and will use for the next several months. He's trying to dismantle a nuclear program of a regime that would potentially suicide bomb the world and the United States and not even think about it. And he's trying to say that no matter what, they're not going to get leverage over me. No matter what they try to do to us economically, they're not going to get leverage over me. I'm going to do this deal right. And of course, it turns into what that answer was. And the fake pearl clutching from the media is quite predictable. You heard Joe Scarborough, others desperately trying to pin all things bad with the economy on Trump in this election year. Ed Henry, Rick Leventhal join us now. Ed, I mean, there's trillions of dollars printed out in the last years of Joe Biden that sent inflation to a point it's going to take years to bring us back from. I mean, it's an inflation problem that's cost the average American tens of thousands of dollars. Trump's operation in Iran shoots gas prices up for 2 months, and now they're trying to blame all of these issues on Donald Trump.
Right. And this is where you can see the media lie. They covered for Biden and Bidenflation for 4 full years, as you suggest. They never said, what about American affordability? We've never heard about affordability as an issue for 4 years. Suddenly it becomes an issue in the Trump years, the hangover of the Bidenflation, as you suggest. As it came down, they didn't give Donald Trump any credit for it coming down last year sharply. The short-term pain of the war, now all of a sudden inflation is back with a vengeance in the media's eyes, and we're just going to hammer them at every turn. On that one answer, could he have answered it a little clearer? Sure, as you suggest. But the bottom line is the question was about the deal, a peace deal with Iran, and where does the American affordability issue come up there? And he's saying directly and honestly, that's not what the peace deal is about. It's about making sure Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. Doesn't mean he's saying he doesn't care about Americans. Come on.
It means, Rick, that they're not going to just be able to cut oil off and get me to capitulate to an Islamist regime. That's not going to work. That's the answer that he gave.
It's context, right? It's context and perspective. He was talking about the importance of making sure Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. And right now, his first thought is not about, is it going to cost us a few more cents in gas prices or other prices? Yeah, they've been high for a long time. And yeah, they're a little bit higher right now. But the goal is to de-arm the Iranian regime, to take away their ability to kill Israel and Americans around the world. It's obvious that that this is a really, really important thing. And his focus is on that, on making sure they don't have enriched uranium and nuclear weapons.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we are in an affordability crisis that started 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. And it started with them dumping a whole bunch of spending onto the excuse of COVID, even after COVID had ended, because they couldn't wait to just dump money into their coffers, dump money into Washington, D.C., and we're all paying that price. This is a very small portion of the problem. They're going to try and dump it all on Trump's shoulders now. That's politics. I want to get to one more with you guys. Rick, Israel's foreign ministry announcing an upcoming lawsuit against the New York Times. Had this op-ed from Nicholas Kristof, the silence that meets the rape of Palestinians. This is pure Hamas propaganda, by the way, claiming that Palestinians have been sexually abused at the hands of Israeli prison guards, soldiers, settlers, interrogators. Even a claim that police dogs have been coached to rape Palestinians. All of this, Rick, as we know, is Hamas trying to blur the lines of the atrocities committed. We know what they did on October 7th. We know who the Neanderthals are in this fight. Hamas is trying to blur it so it seems like everybody are committing these kinds of atrocities. Really disgusting from the New York Times to actually take the bait.
Well, the timing is really important here. That article came out the day before a report that revealed the savagery of Hamas in what it did. And I can't even talk about it on television. It's so graphic. Disgusting what they did to those Israelis before they murdered them or kidnapped them. What went on is beyond depraved. And the Times publishes that article the day before that report comes out, which details just how awful they are. So, yeah, they're really good at propaganda. Hamas has proven they're very good at propaganda.
And they get a hell of a lot of help from some of the most ridiculous outlets in this country. Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, and when liberal publications like the New York Times pick sides and basically say, we're going to hammer Israel, and they don't want to be honest about what happened on October 7th with the depravity, the rapes, and the murders. And look, this is not Israel saying it. It's what Hamas captured with GoPro cameras. Remember, the Hamas terrorists went in with GoPros attached to themselves on mopeds. So the video that was obtained was not doctored videos by the Israelis or the Americans or anyone. It was what the terrorists shot as they, abused people and murdered them. So the atrocities were committed and recorded by the terrorists themselves.
Yeah, they're trying to equate these Neanderthals, with a sophisticated counterpart that they have in Israel, and it's not going to work. Really disgusting stuff. Got to leave it there. Rick and Ed, good to see you guys. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
All right, suicidal empathy and a tragic outcome after a young woman was attacked and refused to help police make an arrest. We've got our friend Dr. Gad Saad coming up next.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finity, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
Hi, I'm Arthur Lee, CEO, inventor of LifeVac, the only FDA-cleared airway clearance device that saves a life in a choking emergency. Over 5,000 people a year choke to death, one child every 5 days. Please, consider protecting your family, your business, your loved ones. Go to lifevac.net today.
If you've lived through numerous presidents and multiple recessions, you've seen what happens to the world economy when things get rough. And if you're looking for protection for your hard-earned savings, then look no further than American Hartford Gold. Unlike stocks, crypto, real estate, gold and silver can protect you against inflation and recessions. It's a hedge against all the things you don't want to happen to your hard-earned dollars. And with American Hartford Gold, you'll get the #1 precious metals dealer in the country and their support in making sure your money is protected by gold and silver.
Makes me feel secure having that investment there because it's not fluctuating as the market is, and it's something that you can just hold on to.
In today's day and age, you want to invest in something that is real. I think everyone should pick up the phone and call American Hartford Gold.
American Hartford Gold is the trusted leader in precious metals. Our dedicated team will work closely with you to guide you through the purchase process to help secure your future. Plus, every purchase comes with a 100% satisfaction guarantee.
Owning gold gives me a sense that it's not going to just evaporate before my very eyes. I can hold it in my hand, I can touch it, I can go spend it.
I really look at American Hartford Gold in the category of a friend, somebody that I could trust and somebody that I have confidence in.
Whether you've never owned precious metals or you're an experienced buyer, American Hartford Gold's winning reputation and best-in-class customer service will keep you coming back for years. You've worked hard over a lifetime, and that money deserves the protection that you can only find in precious metals. When you call today, ask about the exclusive Freedom Package for new customers and get your free guide to buying precious metals. Call now.
As part of our special TV offer, when you call now, you can get our free guide and the Freedom Package. This includes up to $20,000 in free silver on qualifying purchases, plus free account setup, free shipping, and more. Call now, 855-313-1143. That's 855-313-1143.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease symptoms can keep coming back. Break away to what's possible with Tremfya. Tremfya can help with remission at 12 weeks, 1 year, and 2 years. Some had visible repair of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Break away with Tremfya. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
Welcome back. A recent tragedy here in New York, a reminder of the costs of suicidal empathy. 76-year-old retired teacher Ross Falzone, thrown down the steps of a subway station by a psychopath. Falzone was killed by a man who should have never been on the streets. The accused killer, this 32-year-old repeat offender, Ramel Burke, smiling in a courtroom. That should anger you. Police say he was released from the psych ward the same day that he killed Falzone. The New York Post's Miranda Devine revealing that a liberal New York woman who was attacked by that man just before he killed Falzone, the 23-year-old refusing to cooperate with prosecutors after Burke attacked her on a subway as well. She said, because maybe part of me was like, I don't want to put another black man in jail. And now because she didn't cooperate with police, he went out just weeks later and murdered a retired school teacher by throwing him down the stairs. Dr. Gad Saad is the author of the book Suicidal Empathy. It is a book that is exactly about moments like this and what we're doing to ourselves to achieve some kind of ridiculous virtue. Doctor, good to have you back on. Your reaction to that story and talk about, this is exactly your point.
Right. I mean, it's too bad that story didn't happen in time to include it in the book. But the regrettable feature here is that I've got a million such cases in the book. I mean, it's simply incredible. What I'd like the listeners and viewers to understand is that the book is not about an attack on empathy. Empathy is an evolutionarily selected trait. We are a social species, so it makes sense for us to have empathy as a virtue. For you and I to have a good conversation, I need to put myself in your mind and vice versa. That's part of cognitive empathy. But like most things in life, like Aristotle explained to us several thousand years ago, all good things in moderation. Too little of something is not good. Too much of something is not good. And much of life is about finding that sweet spot. So too little empathy or no empathy makes you a psychopath. Too much empathy, when it hyperfires in the wrong situations towards the wrong targets, you end up with a malady that can destroy the West.
And there's no empathy for the innocent. That's one thing that you never find. There's tremendous empathy for criminals and for people that I guess are viewed as somehow victims of society as they victimize us.
Exactly. So in the case of these recidivist criminals, the idea is that they are born as beautiful human beings, and it is only the fact that they have been socialized into a life of criminality. In this case, it's a black individual who undoubtedly had to go through the horrors of living in the white supremacist United States. So in that case, why would you then double punish him? He's already been punished by being a black man in the United States. Now you're going to punish him by presuming that he's got personal agency? Right. God forbid. He probably needs another 200 chances before we actually throw away the key.
You got to wonder what that 23-year-old woman feels knowing that this has happened, because she didn't want to prosecute. She didn't want to help the police. He'd be in jail. This wouldn't have happened.
Frankly, I hate to say this, but I bet you that she probably doesn't even feel any guilt. I'll tell you an even more incredible story than the one that you just discussed. Yeah. There was a gentleman in Norway who was raped and sodomized by a Somali migrant. The Somali migrant ended up serving a very small sentence in Norway because the Norwegians are very kind and empathetic. After he was released, he was going to be deported back to Mogadishu. The guy who had been raped by him felt horrible existential angst because now he wouldn't be able to, his rapist wouldn't be able to fully flourish in Mogadishu. Poor guy.
It's just unbelievable. And it I guess doesn't surprise me anymore, but the extent of that is just surreal. Real quick before I do let you go, you see the judge that let the guy off in Boston, the guy that shot up like 50, 60 rounds. He shot at people, injured 2 people. He had only gotten 5 years in jail for firing 13 shots at police officers. They went to the judge's house. She said, I don't even remember the case. At what point do we need to start holding to account the judges that are allowing these people to continue to victimize society?
Look, life is about cause and effect relationships. Once you violate that relationship between what you do and the consequences of that, which is the case with many of these liberal judges, you end up with nihilism.
Nihilism, yeah. Good to see you. Dr. Gad Saad, we appreciate you coming on. It is a wonderful book. Thank you so much for joining us. Suicidal Empathy is the name of it. We appreciate it, sir.
Cheers. Take care.
Coming up in Cannes, celebrating a man who beats up women professionally.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
IRS. 3 letters that strike fear into everyone, and for good reason. The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth. And being in debt to the IRS can have serious consequences. Oftentimes it begins with the IRS sending you a collection letter, but then escalates. And before you know it, you're having your paychecks garnished, your bank account seized, even your home or business could be at risk.
My problem was I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I was trying to take on the IRS by myself. I have 5 children, I'm trying to take care of my kids, and it was a lot of stress.
I owed the IRS over $10,000. They told me the possibilities of garnishing my wages to resolve this debt that I owed them.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000. Well, there was nothing I could do about it. I was just overwhelmed at what to do.
These stories are all too common. But thankfully, there's Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 most trusted tax resolution firm. Optima's experts have helped thousands of people with stories just like these resolve their tax debt.
I owe $15,000. I only had to pay $3,500, and now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything. It was easy, like 1, 2, 3.
Since I've settled everything with the IRS, with Optima Tax help, I'm going to be able to succeed instead of just worry.
They sent the paperwork in for the debt to be cleared, the liens to be taken off. Now I'm a happy camper now. If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call.
So don't wait. Today you have options. Tomorrow you might not. Optima's tax professionals are standing by, ready to help you now.
For a free consultation, call 800-375-1215. That's 800-375-1215.
Optima Tax Relief.
Welcome back. Time now for News from the Left. Academy Award-winning director Adam McKay, best known for The Big Short, surprising a lot of people going after the Democrat Party and white liberals as well.
It is incredible to watch people this far down the road still say you got to stand behind the Democratic Party. No group is worse than white liberals. They are so smug and captured, and really it boils down to privilege. I mean, when you talk to white moneyed liberals, they're getting a lot from this broken system.
Yes, they certainly are, and that's why they keep voting for it. Most of them living near Washington, D.C. Next up, Honda announcing a $2.7 billion loss, its first full-year loss in history, all thanks to electric vehicles. Associated Press reporting Japanese automaker losses related to its EV operations estimated $16 billion. As a result, many of the EV models, including those in the works in a joint venture with Sony Corp, have been deleted. Next up, Maryland Democrat Governor Wes Moore, absolutely being groomed for the White House in the future, is passing a left-wing litmus test, claiming that he would sacrifice his own son if he had to. Moore asked if his 12-year-old son wanted to transition, what would the governor do? He said rather than correct the confused child, he'd let it happen. A bow to the altar of trans woke psychosis.
Your son comes in saying he wants to transition. What do you do?
If this is a journey that he wants to go down, I want him to always be comfortable in his own skin.
Would you advise him to wait till he's 18?
I'm not going to condemn him nor castigate him. I'm not going to kick him out of the house. I'm not going to do anything that's going to hurt him.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that I'm involved.
That's the most focus group Democrat answer possible, by the way. He passed all the tests. Now he can run for president. Next up, Elon Musk blasting filmmaker Christopher Nolan after the director capitulated to woke Hollywood's ridiculous Oscar diversity demands with his new film, The Odyssey, which is probably still going to be an amazing film, but it is rather disappointing. You've got Nolan confirming Kenyan actress Lupita Nyong'o is going to play Helen of Troy, known in mythology as the world's most beautiful woman with blonde hair and for whom the Trojan War began, and casting transgender actor Elliot Page as Achilles. That's Achilles, by the way. That's a statue of him there. Elon agreeing with a user who said he wants the award, and he wants the awards, the Oscar awards. And yes, that's basically what you have to do now if you want to be in contention. You've got to make your movie look, frankly, ridiculous to appease all the ridiculous people in Hollywood. And finally, a dude who pummels women professionally is being celebrated at the Cannes Film Festival. Emain Khalif, right there, an Algerian boxer making his first public appearance since the Olympics announced that it would ban him from women's boxing in the Olympics. Remember, in the last Olympics, he hit a woman so hard that she said she's never been hit like that before in her life. And this is celebrated at the Cannes Film Festival, which I guess shouldn't surprise anybody. All right, up here after the break, AOC is the new 2028 Democrat frontrunner. We hit the streets of New York to see what people think about that.
Closed captioning is brought to you by MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream to target neuropathy symptoms.
The stabbing, burning pain in your feet is real. Here's what real customers have to say about MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream, the only thing that works for my diabetic neuropathy.
Available in foot care and diabetic aisles.
Is it just the mustache? No. It's the way he brings me a fresh cup of Black Rifle coffee.
Honey, you having a Riley Green dream again?
Just give me 5 more minutes.
Okay.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix Nail Gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell at all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit, total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 5-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
And finally tonight, a clear indication the Marxists have taken over the Democrat Party. A new national poll from Atlas Intel has AOC as the front runner for 2028. I wish I was kidding. Buttigieg, Kamala following, you got Newsom in there, you even got Booker. What a terrible bench they have. No wonder they tried to prop up the collapsing Joe Biden. Who's going to vote for any of these people? AOC recently claimed her ambition is bigger than the presidency. She wants to radically change this country. But you know she still wants the presidency. We had Brent hit the streets to ask New Yorkers if they think AOC should run.
According to a new poll, New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is leading in the 2028 Democratic primary for president. But do New York City residents even think that she should run?
No.
No, thumbs down.
Absolutely not.
No, I don't think so.
I'm from New Zealand. I've got no clue who AOC is.
We're asking people because she's leading in a new Atlas Intel poll.
That's too bad. She's too radical for anything.
She's got 26% above Buttigieg and Newsom.
Who are they polling? I can't believe that at all. She can run, but will she win? I don't like her.
I'm more than glad to have her put her up there and let her talk.
What she wants cannot be achieved, and if it is, look at New York City.
Would you vote for her?
Anyone but Trump.
What if it was like Xi Jinping of China?
He'd probably be a better president.
The Ayatollah in Iran. Would he be better to lead the country than Trump?
At least he's not on the Epstein files.
AOC, should she run for president?
Who?
AOC.
I don't know who that is.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman.
No. She's a very divisive person.
David Axelrod asked her last week at the University of Chicago. He said, are you going to run for president? She said, my ambition is bigger than president, but the crowd really seemed to want her to run.
No, I don't agree with it.
She says her ambitions are greater than the presidency.
I don't really know what that means.
I don't vote, but I AOC. You know what I'm saying? I love black and brown people, man. AOC for president.
So AOC's skill set is what? She's got the look and she can talk and she's likable. I mean, at what point are they just going to start running actors in the Democrat Party? I mean, you don't need to know anything. You don't have to have any kind of cognitive ability whatsoever. You just have to be able to inspire their constituency to come out and vote. I guess that's all it takes, from bartender to president. Finnerty's up next. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.